It is now August 4th, and I'm back home sitting on my deck after having returned from the United Kingdom for the British 24-hour karting. It is raining a little bit, which is appropriate. I hadn't planned on that, but it is. So an interesting end cap to my adventure here. And I got some of the air and whiskey that I picked up while I was there. And yeah, I had intended on uploading more videos while I was in Middlesbrough at Teesside during the event, but it ended up being just so incredibly hectic. Doing testing, recording as much as I could record, and then on Friday during the day, and then Friday evening trying to get karts ready, and then the whole race, that I had no time to actually do any uploads. So I have a whole bunch of footage that I recorded on each of the test days, footage I recorded during the race. I've got photos that my teammates and friends, supporters of the team took, videos that other people took, that I'm going to cut together over the next week or two, probably more like two, to put together and do a proper recounting of the entire event. But for now, this will do. I'll kind of tell the story of the event and upload it so people get the best and juiciest bits of what actually happened during the event, and then we'll see all the good stuff later. So it was an interesting event for me. So I had a blast. It was an incredible event. I loved it a lot. I told some people earlier today that it reminded me of what QuakeCon used to be like, where QuakeCon, you show up and then you thrash really quickly. We would have partners who gave us hardware, and there was a new partner every year. The organization didn't own hardware, and then we would thrash as quickly as we could to get a network up and running. And there was a lot of camaraderie and working exceptionally hard to put together an event, and then the event is done, you pack up and you go home and you do it again next year. And the 24-hour felt a lot like that. More preparation, more preparation, more planning. It was certainly more organized than QuakeCon felt in the past, but there was a lot of the kind of the hectic, do as much as you can as fast as you can element that I really enjoyed. So I got there on Wednesday morning, late Wednesday morning, with Pete from Edinburgh, after I'd gone to see some of my friends, Michael Weddle and Andy Alston, SMRC people, Scottish Motor Racing Club people, will know those names. Saw them in Edinburgh, drove down with Pete the Wednesday morning to start testing, and I got in the kart not too long after I went there, and I'd never driven a pro kart before, driven plenty of rentals and done some competitions and rentals, but never driven a pro kart. And it had been a while since I had tested anything that was even remotely that quick. So I never quite got up to speed. So on Wednesday, I wasn't comfortable, but I wasn't uncomfortable, but I also wasn't super quick. Tested a few times during the day Wednesday, and felt good, but not like really confident. And ended Wednesday, ready to make more progress on Thursday. Nothing really upsetting, nothing bad. Everything, it was fine. Like, I wasn't super confident, but not nearly as quick on the pace with my teammates. Thursday was an awful day. So went out for my first run on Thursday, and I don't remember exactly what happened. This will show up in later footage that I cut together, but struggled to get up to speed. I think I had an off and then went back into the paddock, and then went out again. And after I went out again, it was after we had done a little bit of work on the brakes. So we had struggled with the feel of the brakes in the 104 kart. And Luke did a little bit of work on it for us. After he'd done that work, Martin tested, if I recall this correctly, and felt better about the feel of the pedal. I wanted him to test first. I went back out. The feel of the pedal was good, but Luke warned me when I was going out that he had done some work on the back of the kart, and there was some grease, some grime, brake cleaner, whatever on the brakes. Then I needed to take it easy and burn the goop off of the brakes before I really started going hard. And just because it wasn't that I hadn't paid attention to what he told me, but I just I didn't think carefully about it when I went out. Gave it full beans and sent the kart way too hard into rib bend, backed it into the gravel. After I backed it into the gravel, I got it buried in the gravel and had to pull it out. I couldn't drive it out. And then I learned after I pulled it out of the gravel when I was trying to drive away why I couldn't drive it out. And it was because a piece of gravel had gotten caught between the chain and the sprocket, on the axle, on one of the engines. And when I tried to push the kart away to get it free, it snapped the chain, popped the chain off. So I turned off the engine that was no longer actually driving the wheel, drove it back around, shouted a few things that I won't repeat in this video when I was coming back into pit lane. Judging by some of the faces, I think it was easy to hear what I said over the noise of my engine and karts going by. And got it back into the pits. And then I think I went out one more time after that, but just didn't feel good at all on Thursday. So then Friday, we wanted to do limited testing. Oh, let me back up. On Thursday evening, I think I went out again. And on Thursday evening, I felt pretty good. So we had been running on really old tires, and because we didn't want to use up nice new tires before we started really preparing for the race, and we kind of got the balance okay. Martin was comfortable with it, but Martin is like exceedingly talented. I'm not. Harrison and George did some testing and they felt better about the balance, but were really complaining about the grip. For me, like, the grip was a struggle, but it felt like the balance was better, so that was fine. Put on newer tires on Thursday evening, and I went out and I felt pretty comfortable on Thursday evening. Did a longer run than I had done earlier in testing, and though the grip was a lot better, the balance was pretty good, felt pretty good about it, didn't want to overcook it, so came in Thursday evening and felt reasonably confident that I wouldn't be super quick during the race, but I would at least be, I could be consistent. I could be quick enough, because it's a 24-hour race. It's not a 24-hour sprint. Like, the idea is to, set a good pace and, make sure you maintain your machinery, because it needs to last 24 hours. Felt okay. And then Friday, I went out briefly, just to kind of feel out the kart, on the final day of testing. Felt okay. And then, we needed to preserve the machinery for the race, so we didn't do a whole lot of running on Friday. Also didn't do a whole lot of running on Friday because we needed to prepare both karts, the 103 and the 104, for the race. We do a full teardown, check for any worn parts, check for anything that's fatiguing, replace all the bumpers, put the vinyls on, all of this stuff. Full teardown and put back together for the race to make sure that we've got a race-ready machine with, fresh parts, fatigued bits, repaired, all of that. And that took us a long time. So we started, we finished testing. We stopped testing later than we wanted to. We had intended to be done by noon. I think we didn't actually finish testing on the 104 until 1 o'clock or 1:30. We went a little bit long because Harrison and George, I think mostly Harrison, wanted some more seat time. And then, started working on karts. We only have one dedicated mechanic, not even a dedicated mechanic. Luke is, one of the full-time drivers of the 103. He's also the mechanic. So Luke was doing a ton of work to try to prepare two karts, because I have some experience, not like as a mechanic proper, but I am mechanical. I know how to use tools. I have built, I have destroyed. I was actually capable of helping him. I got involved as much as I could, and other people on the team got involved as much as they could, kind of asking Luke what kind of things we needed to do, how things came apart, how they went back together, what order we should be doing things. But it still largely fell to Luke to do a lot of that work. And because it fell mostly to Luke to do a lot of that work, even though we were supporting him the best we could, all of the work to set up, to get karts ready for race day went way into the night. I think Pete and I were among the last ones to leave at 1 or 1:30 in the morning on Saturday, and Luke stayed latest to wrap a few things up. But on that evening, we got everything torn down, put back together, put the vinyls on, put the LEDs on. Karts looked absolutely brilliant. We got some support from Adam Nichols. That's a name that I'm going to remember for a long time, and everybody in karting and pro karting in BPEC, I hope they know his name because he's absolutely brilliant. He was a huge help to us. We'll talk more about that in a little bit. Got it all done pretty late, and then came back to get ready for race day at 7 o'clock in the morning. So race day. Race day, we got up early, got to the track, I think 7:30, 8 o'clock. Started prepping for qualifying. Qualifying turned out to be wet. Martin went out in the 104 for qualifying and did pretty well. I think Martin qualified 12th, around there, middle of the pro kart pack, or middle of the middle of the Clubman pack. Pretty good qualifying effort from him. Struggled a little bit in the 103. I think Luke qualified the 103 and struggled a little bit because there was a problem with throttle engagement, throttle cables, actually pulling the throttles in sync and getting full throttle and full power from the engines. So qualifying ended, and at the end of qualifying, all of the karts are impounded into Parc Fermé. Meaning that you're between qualifying and the race, you're not allowed to do any work on the karts. Where you finish in qualifying is where you will start the race, and then they are held by the officials until they're put on the grid for the race start. So Martin qualified the 104 well, no problems. It was impounded in Parc Fermé. The 103 had problems with the throttle cables, so at the end of qualifying, Luke quickly tried to fix that issue in pit lane before we were told to put the karts on trolleys to move to Parc Fermé. And while we were working on it in pit lane, they instructed us, it is time to move karts to Parc Fermé. Make sure I think we had it on the trolley at the time, but they instructed us to move the karts. Luke kept working. I was there trying to help him. They told him, no, seriously, you need to move it. He asked it if we could work on it when the kart is impounded, and the official that we talked to said, yes, you can keep working on the kart. We clarified, okay, does that mean one person, or can we have some help? And the person said, yes, you can have some help. We then asked, how many people can help, and we got no answer. So we assumed, okay, we're allowed to work on the kart. The guy didn't specify how many people. I went with Luke. And pushed the kart. I think Sears went with us too, Adam Sears. We pushed it over into the impound, which was on the other side of the track from, it's basically on the opposite side of the track from the first left-hand fast bend, opposite the pit lane. So Luke tried to fix the throttle cables, couldn't get it done. When we were over there in the impound, an official came over and said we had to stop working on it. Luke explained that, well, a different official told us we could work on it. They told us we have to go away. And by the way, since you've been working on it, we're going to start from the back. So Luke threw his hands up in the air. He was pretty frustrated and upset, understandably so, and walked off. Adam Nichols of Red Racing and Red Graphics came over to ask what was going on. Luke explained it to him when he was walking away. Still had the tools there. I was there with Adam Nichols, and Adam Nichols said he would just fix it. He fiddled with the throttle cables a little bit, checked the actual engagement of the throttle. Noticed that the throttle stop was too high, so he started working on the throttle stop. An official told him, you need to quit. Adam Nichols said, no, it's a safety issue. I'm going to keep working on it. Seriously, you need to leave. I'm not going to leave. So I stuck with Adam. He got it sorted out, but damage was already done. The 103 was going to start from the back. But he got it finished. We cleaned up our tools, got out of there, went back to our awning. I talked to Luke for a while. He was, again, understandably upset and frustrated. Explained to him that it's a 24-hour race. We got until this time tomorrow to try to get a good finish, not to sweat it. He blamed himself. Explained to him that it's not your fault. We put a lot of pressure on Luke to try to prepare two karts with a whole bunch of people that meant well. We're trying really hard to help him prepare karts, but weren't really competent to actually be hands-on, digging in, getting them ready for race day. So talked that over with Luke. I think everybody felt pretty good after that, and then we got ready for the race. So you went out on the grid about half an hour before race start, and the rain had cleared off. It was nice and clear, blue skies, sunny, a few damp patches here and there, but for the most part, it was going to be, for all intents and purposes, it was a dry start. enjoyed the grid, took some pictures. And then at noon, they threw the waved the Union Jack to start the race. Everybody, it's a Le Mans style start, so everybody starts on the opposite side of the racetrack from the karts. There's one attendant holding the cart so it doesn't roll away or back off the track. When drivers run across the track, jump in the cart, everybody takes off. And then the first part of the race was, I think, the first hour or so more or less uneventful, but then we had kind of small issues here and there. So we had carts in the pits for various small things. I remember doing a lot of sprinting back and forth between the pits and between pit lane and the awning with tools because various things were going wrong. I don't remember exactly what we had happen, but I think we had another odd problem with throttles. We had at one point, because I think there was an issue with brakes. So it was right after Sears got into the cart, there was an issue with the brake caliper that caused him to spin off. And I think it ended in a full course caution, and one of the recovery, I was going to say recovery vehicles, but recovery four-wheelers with a trailer went and picked him up and brought him back and had to fix that. Had a lot of small issues like that. To the point that the 104 ended up ahead of the 103, a few hours into the race, and then everybody kept pounding around, but it held like that for a long time. And there was a fairly regular fairly regular cadence of small issues with one kart or the other. I think mainly the 103, but it's kind of hazy in my memory, that we had to work through during the race. So the first couple hours of the race ran dry, and then as everybody kind of settled into a rhythm, started to see a little bit of rain, and then rain became proper rain when Harrison was in the kart in the 104 early on in the race. I don't remember who was driving in the 103 at the time. Now at this point, like the 103 karts race is definitely more hazy in my memory because I was very focused on the 104, driving the 104 and then also being responsible for comms and doing pit stops and all of these things. So at after a few hours in the race, Harrison went out, and it started to rain properly, and Harrison was really good in the rain, so it was really fun to be on the radio with him. He wanted to know gaps, he wanted to know lap times, he wanted to know whether he was catching the car ahead or not. We were monitoring the track, looking at how the leaders were going around the racetrack, whether they were still using the dry line or the wet line, and we had a lot of fun working together, me kind of helping manage the race and feed him information while he pounded around in the wet, and he's really, really good in the wet. It was a lot of fun to watch. And then, there was a driver change after Harrison. I think, he and George alternated in the early race, if I remember correctly. Tom didn't go in until later. So did that for some hours until, I think, 8 or sometime between 8 or 9 o'clock in the evening. I decided to go for some sleep because I was due to be in the cart at 3 o'clock in the morning. So we had decided before the race that I would go in the cart at 3 o'clock in the morning because, one, I wanted to drive at night. So Barton, I think, took most of the responsibility for putting together the stint plan, and he had asked me sometime during testing if I wanted to drive at night. I said, hell yes, I want to drive at night. I love driving at night. I really enjoy driving at night. And in addition to that, the weather forecast looked like it would be more favorable for us, for me specifically, if I drove at night. I had driven higher karts in the rain before, so I was familiar with driving a kart on slicks in the rain, but I'd never driven. It was my first experience in a pro kart that week for the 24-hour, and I'd certainly never driven a pro kart in the rain. We didn't have any rain in testing where I could go out and cut my teeth and get a feel for it. So we wanted to try to avoid me driving in the rain the best we could because I had the least experience, and with the least experience in treacherous conditions, that's a recipe for something dangerous. So we tried to plan around me, not being in the cart in the rain, and then what ultimately happened is it was raining. After a few hours into the race, kind of abated a little bit. And then around the time I went to try to get some sleep, and I didn't get much sleep. I was awake for a couple hours and then got an hour and a half or 2 hours of sleep, and then woke up and couldn't get back to sleep again. The rain kind of came and went, but came and went in such a way that water was really building up on the circuit. So by the time I went to the awning at 2:15 in the morning, the track and everything around it was properly wet. It wasn't raining at the time, or if it was kind of on and off, just spitting rain. But it was the track was properly wet. So I was, having not been super confident in testing, having moments where I felt really good, and then times where I didn't. I was, and then being tired, like I was really, really nervous, frightened, honestly, about going out in the rain. And I told my teammates this, didn't feel good about it, thought I was going to be a hazard, thought it would be kind of dangerous, didn't think it was going to be a good idea, did not want to get hurt. And everybody reassured me, like, go out there, you'll be fine, not as bad as you think it is. At one point, I don't remember if this was during the night, during the time when I was getting ready to go out to drive, but I talked to Martin at some point, and he said, like, well, you said you would do it, and, well, you need to do it. And that had a lasting impression on me, because he was absolutely right. Like, I had made a commitment, I was there, I wanted to drive, and I was pretty scared about going out in those conditions, because I'd never experienced that kind of kart in those conditions before. But it did. Like, I made a commitment to the team. I could not let the team down, and I swallowed my fear and decided, like, I just have to go out there and do it. At the same time, like, I also told Pete, team manager, I told Pete, like, please have someone ready, because if I'm going to be dangerous to myself or to others, like, then, we need to take care of it. We need to have somebody ready to go to get in. He agreed that we would. He reassured me again. He reassured me many times, that, I would get out there, it would be okay. I'd feel it out. It would be fine. So then Tom was in the cart, while I was getting ready to take over. About 3:30 in the morning, we ran about half an hour late, just the way stints worked out, and problems with the cart, and cautions, and stints running long. You use less fuel in the rain because you're not on throttle as much, so the stints tend to run a little bit longer. About 3 o'clock in the morning, Tom brought it into pit lane. I was suited up in full wetsuit, and ready to go. Tom jumped out, threw my ballast in the seat and then on the pegs, put the pin in, and off and went down pit lane. So the pit lane at Teesside follows the racetrack. So there's the D chicane right after the start-finish line, and then a very short straight. It's not even a straight if you're at racing speed out on the circuit, and then a fast left-hand bend, and then there's a very long straight to the second corner, which is rib bend, kind of a medium-speed right-hander. And the pit lane exit is right after the bend at the end of pit lane that follows the left-hand bend in the racetrack, and there's a gate there that tells you that you should accelerate, and then the pit lane exit is separated from the racetrack by an Armco barrier with tires on the other side, and then the pit lane exit joins the racetrack at the on the outside of the entrance of rib bend. So I was leaving pit lane, going pit lane speed limit, walking speed, and made the bend and got through the gate. And as soon as I was through the gate, I told myself, like, I have to go full power right now, because if I don't go full power right now, there's no use in being out on circuit and trying to decide if I'm brave enough to use full power. I need to get this done now in a place where I can ping pong off barriers if I need to, and I don't have to worry about traffic. So I was still so tentative coming out of pit lane, terrified that I was going to completely screw it up, put myself in the barrier, got past the gate, and put my right foot all the way on the floor, and no wheel spin, like full grip. And I thought, okay, that's a pretty good sign. Like, I was afraid that I was going to have a ton of wheel spin, and I'd be fighting the cart. I'd have to back out of the throttle as soon as I jumped on it, but I got full grip, so that's a good sign. Didn't expect that in the wet with this much power. There's one problem solved. There's one hurdle jumped. I'm good. Okay, cool. So then got to went full speed down the pit exit lane, and then lifted out of the throttle as I was approaching the end of the lane where I would be braking to make the corner, and then planned to start turning into the corner. So in dry conditions, when you're driving a go-kart, or any car for that matter, You want to brake as late as possible, obviously, so you're carrying as much speed as you can into a corner. And then when you're braking and turning the kart, or any car, you want to make as little steering input as possible. You want to carry as much speed just through the corner as you can with the minimum amount of input, so that you're generating the least friction from the tires, so that you're not scrubbing off speed. You want to go as fast as you can through the corner. If you're making friction, you're scrubbing off speed, you're going slower. It's a different story in the wet. So in the wet, because you want to maximize the grip, and you carry speed by basically getting out of the corner as soon as you can to be able to get back on the power as early as you can, but it's slippery, you know, what you want to do is crank on as much lock as you possibly can to increase the size of the contact patch, get all of the weight over the left side of the kart, or the car, as the case may be, to generate friction to get the kart rotated so that you can put the power down and straighten out the exit of the corner as much as possible. Because if you're turning when you're trying to exit, you get wheel spin because of the, you know, the uneven balance of the kart. So you use, you know, lots of steering lock, lots of friction. But you're often like sliding. You're using the friction more so than you would in the dry. You do this to the extent in the dry in a kart to get the kart slowed down, and then you open up the steering to, you know, to have as little friction as possible to carry speed. In the wet, like, you're using as much friction as you can to get the kart slowed down. Obviously the tire is sliding because there's less friction with the road, you know, with the, you know, the tire running over water. So the kart tends to slide before it finally bites and turns in. Well, I didn't know that, or at least I hadn't felt that. I knew that, but I hadn't felt that in this kind of kart before. So it's flying down the end of the pit exit lane, you know, out of the throttle, into the brake as hard as I dared, so that I didn't want to lock up the rears and then, you know, spin the kart around in the wet, because that'd be embarrassing. And put on a ton of steering lock to make the corner, and then slid. Slid, and thought I'd already screwed it up. This is terrible, this is bad, I'm going in the gravel, I'm gonna have to dig it out again. And then suddenly grip, tons of grip, more grip than I could have imagined from the kart. I'd never experienced grip like that in a rental kart before, in the rain. And the kart gripped, and it gripped where I wanted it to grip, which was on the outside of the corner, where, you know, the most grip is in the rain. And you know, got the kart pointed the right direction, you know, opened up the steering, got on the power, as much power as I'm pretty sure I was on full power. If not, I was close to full power, but, you know, into the throttle, and I had grip at the rear. And I took off down the short straight to the mountain section of the track, and felt like, you know, as soon as I was out of the corner, like, holy shit, I did it. I thought I had screwed it up, didn't think I was going to have that much grip. I was stunned, like absolutely stunned by the amount of grip I had. Never experienced that in a rental kart before. And at that point, like, you know, all of this that I've taken, you know, 7 or 8 minutes to describe, took no more than 10 seconds. From leaving, like, getting past the gate and pit lane to turning into the first corner, no more than 10 seconds. And I went from absolutely pissing myself, terrified that I was going to screw it up and that I might get hurt, to just absolute joy. Like, I could not believe how much grip there was. It was that, like, those few moments were just so fun, going from just that sudden shift in emotion that I'm gonna mess this up, I don't feel good about this is a bad idea, to like, okay, that actually worked, I didn't think I could do it, that could actually work, to then getting to, all right, like, now I know what the kart can do, and I know what I need to do. I can start focusing on the job and driving the kart. And I was able to do it every corner. You know, find the grip, put in, you know, the input to, you know, make the kart actually rotate, in the power, you know, wet line all the way around the racetrack, and it felt really good. And then early on in the run, like, Pete radioed me and asked, like, how it's going. I said, like, I just want you to leave me alone so I can focus, because I was concentrating really hard, like, really into it right away. It felt so good. The most unbelievable I have ever felt in a kart. Like, just into the unknown. You know, in a pro kart that I'd never driven before, in that much rain, which I had never done before, I was just completely elated. I can't describe, like, how good it felt to be pounding around the racetrack in those kind of conditions, having gone from mortal terror to just abject joy. It was crazy. So, that's how I got into it. You know, we had planned on me, you know, not running in the rain because I didn't feel like I could do it. Ended up running on a wet racetrack and felt really good about it. And then ended up like getting bad conditions. So I ran for, I guess it was probably 10 minutes or so, but I'm not sure exactly how long. Track was wet and just kind of spitting rain to like a pretty steady rain, and managed it fine. Like it wasn't terribly difficult to drive around. Wasn't easy, but like there was a lot more grip than I expected, so I was able to get around pretty, like really confidently, the most confidently I had the entire weekend. To more rain, to bucketing down, just incredible amounts of rain. We had planned on me not running in the rain at all, or at least as little as possible, and then like the worst conditions showed up when I was in the kart. And still like the entire time felt really comfortable, except for the visibility. Like the visibility started to get really, really bad. So I made a bonehead mistake before I got in the kart and forgot to put Rain-X on my visor. And water, you know, began to kind of, you know, stand on the visor, and I would wipe it off with my hand. That would work well enough. But when I wiped it off with my hand, it would close the visor, and I needed to have it cracked in order to manage the fog, because it was fogging a little bit. And then I'd, you know, I'd fumble with it when I was trying to drive and open it too far, and then water would get in my face and a little bit on my glasses. So I spent, you know, basically the second, you know, 2/3 of my stint trying to manage my visor and the water and the rain, and then the rain started coming down harder. And with more rain on the track, coming down harder, and then following other karts around, there was a lingering spray in the air all the time, just, you know, this mist that was getting kicked up by karts. And then following other karts around, either getting passed by faster pro karts, or in following around higher karts, and you're working traffic and getting past them. It was just constant, you know, constant water in my face. And it got to the point where it was so bad that in the final laps before I finally came in, I was mostly blind. So probably 10 or 15 minutes before I came in, I got on the radio to say, like, I'm really struggling with visibility here. Feel really confident in the kart. I know, like, I can start to push, I can go quicker, I can build speed, but it's getting dangerous because I just can't see well enough. And not only could I not see well enough, at one point during my stint, maybe 10 or 15 minutes in, a bunch of the lights on the circuit went out. So the lights on the back straight before South Bank had gone out, and I think the light on the way into the S's, which illuminates the, you know, the entrance to the S's, the Wiggles, had gone out. So it was really hard to see back there. Could only see shadows, you know, behind the, all of the water that was in my face. And they told me, like, you know, we're working on getting Harrison awake so that he can get ready to go in. Just manage it. And I did. I managed it, you know, just, you know, kind of wiping off my visor and getting my glasses the best I could, and kind of peeking around my, you know, doing all the things I could to see what was going on. I managed it the best I could, but then on my final lap, it was so bad that I actually, like, I could not see things immediately in front of me. And I remember this really clearly. On the final lap before I came in, I went into the S's, not able to see the apex really well, but I knew because of where the lights were and kind of, you know, feeling where I was, really was feeling my way around, feeling where I was on the track. I knew where the first apex was for the Wiggles. So I was able to get the first apex. From the first apex, I knew where the second apex was, and then the third, and then I misjudged the fourth apex. It's, you know, the Wiggles get a little bit tighter as you go through, and I misjudged where the fourth apex was, and thought I was going to clip the curb, and instead got really high on the curb, which wasn't bad. I didn't high center the kart or anything, but got really high on the curb when I didn't expect to. I thought I had missed it, or at least only clipped it. Bang, up over the curb, and then kart came down in the road, and I thought, like, well, I know I'm on pavement, but I'm not really sure where I'm pointed. So I jumped on the brakes, hoping that I was pointed somewhere toward the entry to the corner, and didn't actually know I was there until I was on top of it. This is perfect timing. I didn't know I was there till I was on top of it, but I was able to see, you know, the edge of the road where it starts to curve around, and I was like, cool, I'm here, I'm slowed down, make the steering input, get the kart turned in and rotated through the exit of the corner. Then the, you know, the hairpins there are pretty easy, and the lights had come back on at that point, so I was able to see well enough where the boundaries of the track were. This is a proper rain now. easy to see, you know, where the boundaries of the track were, and I was able to get around South Bank and the rest of the hairpins and then into pit lane, and Harrison took over. So then Harrison pounded around in awful conditions for a while. He made it almost 2 hours. Well, in that 2 hours, at least toward the end of that 2 hours, I really didn't think I would get this wet, but I'm going to power through it for the spirit of the video. Harrison also struggled with visibility, and he told me that after the race ended. Well, while he was going around, the team managers met to discuss ending the race. And we had planned the whole time for me to be in the kart at the very end of the race. So Pete, this is actually too wet, and I don't have to be out here right now, so I'm not going to. We're going to take this inside. We'll cut this. Yeah, so Harrison took over, also complained about visibility. And we had planned on me being back in the kart at the end of the race. Well, Pete got called to a meeting of team managers to discuss ending the race because the conditions were so bad, and a lot of teams had already broken karts. The 103 by that point was out of the race because of an unfortunate collision with a higher kart. No fault of our driver, just, you know, a racing incident. You know, somebody struggling in the conditions collected the 103, and that was that. So Pete knew that he wanted to get Harrison in so that we could put me back in the kart because he expected the race to be ending. But because the conditions were so bad, Harrison could not see the pit board that we were showing from our gazebo, and he was also struggling with the radio. So the radio wasn't working for Harrison, and couldn't see the pit board. So we tried to bring him in for 7 or 8 laps. I didn't know this at the time, like all of this about the team managers meeting to end the race. I think I may have slowed down a little bit. I'm gonna go back out there. I didn't know about this, so I was in pit lane, you know, ready to get in the kart while they were trying to wave Harrison in, but we couldn't communicate with Harrison. And it had become kind of a meme over the weekend. We gave Harrison a lot of shit about this because Harrison tended not to see the pit boards, so we just assumed it was Harrison not looking for the pit boards again. Learned later that he literally couldn't see it because the conditions were so bad. He said afterward that there was so much rain that he was also feeling his way around the circuit, not really able to see what was going on, but he's, you know, younger and braver than I am, so he powered through it. But while he was going around, he was checking fuel. So, you know, he would go around where he could, you know, he would kind of, you know, get his knee up, you know, out of the kart, so that he could see the fuel tank. And it just happened to be that, you know, on his in lap, he noticed that the fuel was low enough that he should come in, brought it into pit lane without knowing that we had wanted him to come in for several laps at that point, handed it over to me in a downpour, just pouring down rain. And I jumped in, went out onto the track, got onto the track to find there was a full course yellow, and I think it ran around. I think I only made it around once when I saw the red flag, and then that was it. Through Pete's attempted, you know, engineering, and then, you know, just a bit of luck that Harrison happened to see that fuel was low enough. It was time for a stop. I managed to get in for the final lap, and then out to take the red flag and the checkered, and that was that. Yeah, and then after that, came in, started tearing stuff down. Kind of an emotional finish for the 103 crew because they didn't actually finish the race. First time the team hasn't finished the race. So they started in hires in 2016 and then graduated to Pro Kart in 2019. Someone will correct me. And yeah, this year didn't work out. So in that collision earlier on in the race, sometime overnight, the collision with the higher kart actually broke part of the steering. So where the mounting points for the stub axle on the right front, one of them broke off. Adam Nichols was a champ and tried to weld a piece back on so we could at least go around and try to finish the race. And we sent Cody back out like that, and he said, you know, it worked well enough. It wasn't super quick. But then, like, ultimately decided to bring it in and avoid taking any further damage because it was already, you know, running pretty precariously with bits welded back on. But 104 finished P24, P12 in class. which honestly feels like a hell of an accomplishment given, you know, how difficult it was to get ready and then how difficult the conditions were during the race. And yeah, that's it. That's how it ended. You know, that night everybody got a nap that afternoon, went out and had dinner Sunday evening, and out to the pub, had beers. You know, I think, you know, Sunday morning everyone was in pretty low spirits because it was such a war to even get through the race. But by the time everybody had a nap, had some dinner, had some drinks, everybody was in pretty good spirits, and we had a good time. And then Monday morning, we all went our separate ways. Everybody on the team, you know, back to all the places they live in the UK, and then me back here to the States, where I got home, you know, very late, about midnight Monday night. And that's a 40-minute video so far, but that was my experience, like on the track or near the track at the British 24-hour karting at Teesside. I'm going to do it again. I got home and went to bed, and then on Tuesday morning promptly declared to my wife that I have to do that again. That was such an unbelievable experience, and it was absolutely incredible. You know, I had some idea, you know, what to expect going in. You know, I already knew I had a good relationship with a lot of my teammates already, just from, you know, having known and chatted with them online for the last couple of years. Pete, Chris McElroy in particular, because I've done a lot of work with them in sim broadcasts, so I already had a great relationship with them. I had a great relationship with everybody in the team, but like an exceptional relationship with those guys. And yeah, so, you know, had some idea what to expect, but then, like, really, you know, in some ways, like, had, you know, a lot of really, really fun and really exciting surprises. You know, I feel like I learned a ton about myself. I feel like I came out of the event a better human being, like going in and you're really challenging myself, challenging my confidence. I called my wife and then my dad, I think on Thursday evening, to say that, you know, I really enjoyed racing and I enjoyed going around in a kart, and I felt like I would do well, but that I no longer felt like I was a racing driver. I'd wanted to be a racing driver since I was a kid, and then, you know, it was such a humbling experience in testing that I no longer felt like that was me. That wasn't part of who I was. And then, you know, Sunday morning when I had to swallow my fear and then go out in the rain and loved it. Just, I can't describe how much I loved it. It was unbelievable. I feel like a racing driver again. I really do. So that was, everything about it was fantastic. So yeah, again, like this is the recap, which is getting kind of long right now, because I got so much video I need to cut together from everything I recorded during the event. But for this, for now, that's basically it. That's the one take summary of how the event went. I want to thank everyone in the team for being so welcoming and for being so trusting. It took a lot of trust for the team to feel prepared and willing to put me in a pro kart. I felt, you know, nervous a number of times, and I'm sure there were a few times where people in the team felt like I wasn't quite ready for it. But when I got in during the race, I feel like I delivered. So I hope everybody on the team feels like their trust was well placed. Yeah, I want to thank, like, Pete, because, you know, Pete was the first person in the team that I met, you know, online 3 years ago doing iRacing. Chris McElroy, Elmo from Sim Broadcast, because he has been so supportive and we've worked together so much in Sim Broadcast. And then Luke, Sears, Alex Bomberg, who run the regular season for Rethink Racing, because they've been great friends. They were so helpful with me, you know, getting up to speed during the race. My teammates, George and Harrison, Cody and Jake did a great job in the 103. Jake was a top lad, you know, doing his best. He's not a mechanic like, you know, many of us in the team aren't mechanics, but he was there a lot trying to help out, you know, the best he could. Tom has been a great friend of mine, Tom Jones. He and I have done a lot of sim racing together in iRacing, and he and I shared the kart. Martin Buchan. Martin was incredible. I learned that he and I have Dallas in common. He and I used to hot a lot of the same places. So he has friends there, and we talked about, you know, all the places around McKinney, Allen, Plano that he's been, that I've also been, and he's been out to the Dallas karting complex too. So it was really fun to meet Martin and get his help and support. Martin had everybody on the team, but Martin especially had a lot of really helpful feedback for you know, getting around Teesside in the kart. Michael Weddle, for being such a great host at Edinburgh. I was really excited to meet him. Andy Alston, somebody I've worked with on sim broadcasts. It was lovely meeting him. Jess took care of us during the event. She went and got food. She took pictures. She helped find she helped find, you know, dry shirts and jackets and all of these things when everybody was soaked and tired. Couldn't have done it without you. Really appreciate having you there. Josh Riley, guy who drives American cars. We had a great adventure going to a drive-through window at McDonald's with me in the right side passenger seat in his big American car. American guy in American car ordering McDonald's, which was hysterical. I'll never forget that. And everyone else on the team who was there that I've probably forgotten while I'm trying to remember recording this video. And then one very special person in particular, Adam Nichols with Red Racing, was like absolutely killed himself trying to help our team, his own team, other teams. He and his guys were on top of any kart that came into the paddock before the race, during the race. Like, anyone drove up and looked like they needed help, Adam and his guys were there. Just absolutely indispensable. Top professionals, incredible people, who were so helpful to me, to the team. I'm really grateful to have met all of those guys. I made so many new friends during the event. Ross O'Meara, I want to thank him because he was so friendly. He was really excited. He was super pumped about me, the American, turning up for this event, and I think he was partly responsible for word going around that I was there, because I bumped into people during the entire week who asked if I was the American guy that I had never introduced myself to. So I felt so well supported by the team. Like, everyone was just as amazing as I thought they would be. I made a whole bunch of great new friends, and I really look forward to seeing everybody next year. I will be there. I cannot imagine not coming back. So yeah, that's it. We're 47.5 minutes in. That's probably more than anybody really wanted to watch. It's more than I expected to record. So yeah, it was amazing, and I'm gonna do it again. I hope you all enjoy watching this, and those of you guys over there doing the 24, I'll see you next year. Thanks again so much. It was a blast.